This is a Dynamite Network podcast.
Hi, welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And in this episode, we are doing a duel between the outsider character Halo and Marvel's Power Pack.
And I know what you guys may be thinking, like, did these guys jump the shark? These characters are not very well known, even among DC and Marvel fans. To which we gotta say, yes, this episode is very relevant because Halo is a member of the Outsiders, and we're gonna do a team duel with the Outsiders in a few months against X-Force. So we gotta get through this. Power Pack, while they haven't had, the biggest presence in Marvel over the years, they have had some amazing stories, and you guys should definitely stick around to listen to those as we break down the characters' backstories, enter their stats, and run simulations to see who would win in a fight.
I mean, you say we gotta get through this like these characters aren't interesting. I actually think the characters are very interesting.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like maybe because they're not popular, they may not seem interesting, but actually I was incredibly fascinated by the stories of the Power Pack as I was going through their backstory.
Same. Yeah, I can't wait to go over Halo's backstory. But before that, we're going to break down the comic book movie news from the past week, of which there was just one major news item, and that was the teaser trailer number 2 for the Max series, The Penguin. As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
Guys, our artificially intelligent duel simulator AJ9K has a quick message for our listeners, so listen up.
Why, hello there. Do you want even more from this podcast? Then become a part of the Dynamic Duel community on Patreon, where you can choose from 3 tiers. The Dynamic 2.0 tier gives you access to our Discord chat server, the Fantastic 4 tier gives you 2 bonus episodes each month, and the X-Force tier makes you an executive producer of this show. Lastly, the Dynamite Podcast Network tier lets you create your own podcast using this Monte Carlo simulator. Johnny and Joe will help you develop your show, provide graphic support and consultation, and get you simulation results. Pitch the twins your ideas via email at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. Check it out at patreon.com/dynamicduel. Pip pip cheerio.
Thanks, AJ9K, and thanks to everyone who supports the podcast.
Guys, be sure to tune into the other shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network this week, including Max Destruction, which pits your favorite action heroes from film and television against each other. This week, hosts Ken and Scotty are pitting Renard from The World Is Not Enough, a James Bond movie, against Ajax from Deadpool, the first Deadpool film.
On the Central World podcast, host Zachary Hepburn speculates on fights between fan-favorite anime and manga characters. The show is currently on a season hiatus, so this is the perfect time for you anime and manga fans to catch up on Central World's 40-episode library.
And on the Console Combat podcast, hosts John and Dean find out who would win in fights between popular video game characters. In yesterday's episode, which you could go listen to after this, they found out who would win in a battle between Albert Wesker from Resident Evil against Edward Richtofen, I have no idea how to pronounce it, from Call of Duty.
Visit dynamicpodcasts.com or click the link in our show notes to listen to all of the shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network.
But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize!
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on Instagram for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week, we asked you guys, who do you want to direct the Marvel Studios Blade movie, and why? And that's coming off the news that Jan de Mange, the director that was most recently associated with the film, had left the project. We got some solid answers here. I totally fucked up. This is the first time we've ever done this in this podcast's 8-year history. I accidentally deleted one of the voicemails that was sent in by a listener. I am truly sorry if we don't get to your voicemail within this segment. Don't let it deter you from sending voicemails in the future. But whoever left it didn't leave their name on the form, so we weren't able to reach out to them.
I just want everyone to know that that fuck up was Joseph's to own. I had no part of it. And I am embarrassed for him and by him. And you can be assured that there will be a punishment for this.
That's fair. That's fair. But we have 3 honorable mentions to get through, as well as a No Prize winner. Our first honorable mention goes to Matt Allen, who said,
Hey guys, this is Matt from Texas. The director I think that would be best for the Blade movie should be Sam Raimi. He can do the horror genre. He can do a little bit of comedy. I mean, shoot, we saw it in the Multiverse of Madness, the Spider-Man trilogy, the original trilogy of Spider-Man, anyways. And I just think he would be the best one for it to be able to get that level of fear and humor in there.
Now, I'll be honest. I wasn't the biggest fan of Doctor Strange 2, but that had nothing to do with the direction. I think Sam Raimi is a fantastic director, as evidenced by his Spider-Man films and other genre work. We know that he could work within the Marvel Studio system, and that's huge. I think he would be fantastic for the Blade movie.
I mean, if you look at his Evil Dead work, in addition, you know that he also has, obviously, an affinity for horror. And I think, Blade is more overtly a horror comic series as opposed to something like Doctor Strange, which can have some horror elements in it, but it's mostly about magic and mysticism, right?
Yeah, but even with Doctor Strange 2, I would say that's the most horror-esque film that the MCU has put out to date.
Other than Werewolf by Night, which is not a film, but it was a special presentation on Disney+. I guess the reason why Sam Raimi didn't get the No Prize win here is because of how Matt Allen described the comedy leanings of the director. And yes, Sam Raimi has injected some overt comedy into his films, look at Evil Dead 2 and stuff like that. I'm not necessarily sure that Blade needs that. I think Blade should be a mostly grounded affair, just the way I would like to see it. I think it should take itself very seriously and be not too whimsical, or tongue-in-cheek.
Although, to be fair, that is Marvel's brand. When they tried to deviate from that, we got the Eternals.
That's true, but, I didn't mind the Eternals. I don't mind Marvel deviating from their brand in order to keep things from feeling too stale. I like the idea of Marvel mixing things up, kind of like how they did with Werewolf by Night.
Okay, gotcha.
But great answer, Matt Allen. Fantastic. Our next honorable mention goes to John Starosky, who said,
What's going on? It's John Starosky. My first choice would be Quentin Tarantino to direct the new Blade movie. However, because that is obviously never going to happen, I'm going to go with Peter Jackson. He has the directing chops to make a cinematic masterpiece. And on top of that, he's got the swords play with The Lord of the Rings. He's got all the action. I think he'd be a perfect director for the Blade film. So let's get Peter Jackson in there.
Yeah, Peter Jackson, he is one of the greatest directors of all time, having directed one of the greatest franchises, the Lord of the Rings movies, that were, for the most part, expected to be unfilmable just because of the dense nature of those stories. But he did it. As far as I'm concerned, Peter Jackson can do anything. My big question with him, though, is would he want to direct a Blade movie?
Well, maybe. I mean, he does have a background in the horror genre, and he's never done vampires before. I have to imagine there might be a little bit of interest there. At least I would hope there would be, because Peter Jackson is a master of world building. And one of my biggest fears about this Blade movie is introducing vampires into the MCU, I think can get a little sticky. But if you have a director as talented as Peter Jackson behind the wheel on that, I think there's no way you could go wrong. Would he ever do it? I doubt it, but that would be amazing.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder why Peter Jackson hasn't gotten more work ever since the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies that he's directed. And sometimes I wonder if it's because he did such a good job at making those movies that most studios just can't afford to hire him. They're like, oh yeah, we'd love to have Peter Jackson on this project. And he'd be like, fuck you, give me $10 billion. And they'd be like, no way. And he'd be like, I directed Lord of the Rings. Come on. You'd
be like, bitch, I didn't need to do your movie anyway.
Did you ever see Dead Alive by Peter Jackson?
No, I saw The Frighteners, though. I love The Frighteners.
Yeah, that was a good one. Great answer, John Starosky. Our next honorable mention goes to Travis Herndon, who said,
What's up, Dynamic Dudes? Travis here. Shout out to my twin. So my picks would have to be Bala and Adi El Arbari. I think those two would be pretty good to direct Blade. I mean, they doing a new Bad Boys movie, and judging from the trailer and everything, it looks fucking insane, and it easily can fit that sort of Blade action scene, especially if they're trying to go like a Wesley Snipes style action. So yeah, that was my pick for Blade.
Now, I'll be honest. I have not seen any of the movies that Bilal Fallah and Adil El-Arbi have directed, but that doesn't stop them from being involved in interesting projects, including, the recent Batgirl movie that was unfortunately canned. They directed some of the episodes of Ms. Marvel, which was a fantastic television show, and they're even rumored to be in the running for the upcoming Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, honestly, out of all of the choices we have here, including the no prize winner that we'll get to, I think this is the most plausible answer. Not only do I think that they would be psyched to do a Blade film, they would also be able to match the tone that I think a lot of us are looking for in that movie.
For sure. Yeah. All these honorable mentions are actually great answers. We want to give a big shout out to Cyrus Moore and to whoever's answer I deleted. I'm still sorry about that.
But the winner of this week's no prize is Brandon Estergard, who said,
I think that Taika Waititi should be the only director who isn't allowed to make this movie. Instead, they should get Fede Alvarez because he has a great background in horror, including the Evil Dead 2013 movie, Alien Romulus, and he's even directed a couple episodes of From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a vampire series. And I just personally think he's the best choice for anything horror at the moment.
Yeah, Fede Alvarez has really made a name for himself ever since his Evil Dead remake back in 2013, I want to say. But he also directed Don't Breathe, which I thought was a fantastic movie. And Alien Romulus, coming out soon, looks really, really good. So yeah, I think he's probably one of the best names in the horror genre right now. He's just doing really interesting things behind the camera, and I think he's kind of an auteur, and I would love to have him behind the Blade movie. I also think it's attainable.
I don't know if it's attainable. I think he might be a little too over the top for Marvel's brand. Not saying that he couldn't adjust his tastes to fit the Marvel brand. I just think that's less likely than, some of the other directors that we've talked about. That said, I love Fede Alvarez for this choice because the Blade movie I personally want to see would be the kind of Blade movie that Fede Alvarez would direct.
Absolutely. That would just make my whole year if I heard the news that he got the job.
If they announced that he was the director, that would make me do a double take. I would feel threatened by that because I'd be like, holy shit, that's too amazing. Congrats to Brandon Estergard for winning this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on in this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week.
And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so this past week, we got our second official teaser for the Penguin series. I don't know why they're calling it a teaser. It's over 2 minutes long. It's a trailer. It's our first big trailer for the series. And it is so damn good. It perfectly matches the vibe of the Batman film, which again still reminds me of that David Fincher-esque noir kind of vibe. But also, and I thought of this as I was watching this trailer specifically, of Batman Year One. It's the world of mobsters and corruption that I've always wanted to see Batman in. And it looks like the Penguin is going to nail that tone to a T.
The trailer was so good, I completely forgot about my fat mobster joke from the previous teaser.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm not even going to bring it up, the fact that I called him fat mobstered before.
Do you still think that the suit looks really fake?
Not in any of the shots in this trailer, no. I think they did a good job of hiding the fat suit here.
Good, they probably did that just for you, so they didn't have to hear your shit. No, but I'm glad to hear that you liked it. Right off the bat, I got super excited because it starts off with footage from the end of the Batman when Gotham City gets flooded. It looks like this show actually takes place 1 week after the Batman film ends. And in a way, it's kind of setting up this almost no man's land kind of esque story in that Gotham City is in shambles and there's a power vacuum and the Penguin is going to try and take advantage of that while the city is in chaos, which is a phenomenal premise. I love that. Early on, we get to see the Penguin speaking with Salvatore Maroni in jail, explaining how he basically wants to take over Gotham's criminal underworld. But it looks like he's going to be facing competition from Carmine Falcone's children, specifically Alberto and Sophia, which, if you know anything about the Long Halloween and Jeff Loeb's takes on those characters specifically, I think we're in for a real treat with this show. And it just gets me so pumped to see it.
Yeah, it looks like something out of, The Sopranos or something directed by Francis Ford Coppola. It looks really fucking good. I thought it was weird to see the guy who played Alex Wilder in the Runaways television series as the Penguin's right-hand man. I don't know what character he's playing in the show.
Yeah, I guess the character's name is Victor Aguilar. I think he's his driver. But I was actually excited to see how many explosions and machine guns there were in the show as well. It kind of gives that elevated, fantastical kind of Gotham City atmosphere that, could go a little bit more extra than something like The Sopranos.
I mean, the world of Sopranos, they don't have overt supervillains like they do here. Like, they don't have some guy in an asylum whose face is all scarred up like the Joker's. Or a guy named the Riddler going, no, 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 no.
Yeah, I'm wondering if those characters are going to show up in this show, because apparently Sofia Falcone was in Arkham Asylum for a time. So, I don't know, maybe we'll actually get to see the asylum or a little bit more of it.
Speaking of that, is it weird to have a Batman show without the Batman in it? Like, you'd have to think that all the chaos that the Penguin is going to be causing among the crime families, that at some point you'd have the Dark Knight show up to shut things down.
So this is just a rumor, but apparently Robert Pattinson does make a cameo in the series.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, now I'm going to be expecting that, and I will be severely let down if that does not happen.
Dude, same. But this brings us to our question of the week. Besides Batman, what character do you most hope to see in the Penguin Max series, and why? Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message could be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram. Be sure to answer before June 29th. But that does it for all the news for this episode. Now let's move on to the main event, where we find out who will win in a matchup between the Outsiders character of Halo and Marvel's Power Pack. Alright, Halo versus Power Pack. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, this episode is in lead up to our next team duel, which will be the Outsiders versus X-Force, and Halo is a founding member of the Outsiders team. So we knew we needed to get her into a duel episode sooner rather than later. Now, years ago, I think, maybe it was just 1 year ago, one of our executive producers, Miggy Matanguihan, suggested Halo versus Power Pack, and this was recently brought up again by Devin Davis, who pitched the same idea, and that's what we ended up going with, primarily because all of these characters are insanely versatile.
Yeah, that was the big thing. There were several options available for us to pit against Halo, including Dazzler or Jubilee or something like that. But the versatility of Halo is the thing that gets me. She has like a lot of different powers within her power set. And that's basically her whole thing. You know, she changes the color of the light that she produces, and all of a sudden she has an entirely different power set. And so I knew that I needed someone that was a little bit more versatile than someone like Jubilee who just shoots fireworks, or someone like Dazzler who can convert sound to light, which is powerful, but not in the way that I needed to be. I need to be adaptable. I need to be versatile. And I think the Power Pack kids are just that. You know, they got a cool set of powers amongst themselves. There have been plenty of times within their stories that they've actually swapped powers and stuff like that. But there was also a time when Alex, the oldest of the Power Pack kids, acquired all their powers. And so we knew that that was our in for how to approach this match. It's essentially going to be Halo versus Powerhouse, which is what Alex Power called himself when he had all of his family's powers.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Another reason I like this matchup is because aesthetically, they share a lot of similarities. Like, they wear these black costumes with like strands of color. I thought it just fit. The Power Packs seem cool to me, even though they're like snot-nosed kids. But from what I know of their powers, they're kind of like the Fantastic Four upgraded, in my opinion.
Really? Interesting. Okay. I don't disagree. I think their power set is a little bit cooler, but, you know, we'll get into that in the character breakdown.
Before that, to explain the methodology behind our duels, let's go to our sentient duel simulator, Alfred Jarvis 9000. AJ and NK, tell our listeners how you go about determining a winner in our duel matchups.
Yes, of course, sir. The way I determine a winner between the contestants is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using the character's statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling. In this case, I randomize the statistics along a normal distribution as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters are based on the official Marvel power grid, from which the DC characters' statistics are extrapolated. Additional stat categories are included, such as range, damage potential, versatility, and perception, in order to create a more detailed and accurate simulation. The results of the 1,000 simulations provide a percentage of wins for each character. The contestant with the higher percentage is declared the victor, as they have a higher probability to win any given battle. In an equitable pairing, neither character should win 100% of the matches. The comic book stories have shown that there's even a way for Batman to defeat Superman, so the confidence rate of my method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the source material. My mathematical simulations are without subjectivity or bias. Feats are not the sole consideration, nor are fan votes tabulated for determination of the winner.
Thanks, Adrian9K. Before we run the simulations, though, we'd like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1,000 simulations would play out, beat for beat. And I believe it is my turn to go first with the Marvel character's backstory, so let me go ahead and tell you all about Power Pack. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, existed a planet known as Kymelia, where an advanced race of beings, Kymelians, developed a means of energy production via a process that converted matter into antimatter. Though their technological pursuits were well-meaning, their antimatter converter resulted in a cataclysmic chain of energy that completely destroyed their home planet. Fortunately, some of the Kymelians were able to survive the disaster on a large space station that subsequently became their new home. One of these Kymelians, named Alefire Whitemane, had tapped into Earth's transmissions in order to study humanity, and learned that one of Earth's scientists, named Dr. James Power, had developed similar antimatter converter technology in his pursuit of developing a source of clean energy. Knowing that the device would destroy Earth if used, Whitemane decided he had to intervene. He sent a transmission to the Kymelians that he was leaving for Earth in his starship. However, that transmission was intercepted by a warmongering race of aliens called the Snarks, who also decided to head to Earth and steal the antimatter converter for themselves. Meanwhile, on Earth lived Alex, Julie, Jack, and Katie, the 4 children of Dr. James and Margaret Power. The night before the converter was to be tested, the youngest child, Katie, looked into the night sky and witnessed what appeared to be a meteor shower, but was in reality an aerial battle between Whitemane and the Snarks, who managed to shoot Whitemane's spaceship down. When Katie told her siblings of what she had seen in the sky, the group went outside to find the crashed Kymelian starship. Shocked, they went to alert their parents, but found them being abducted by the Snarks. The Snarks would have killed the children, but they were saved by Whitemane, who was badly wounded, and the Snarks escaped with the Power parents. Dying, the alien explained to the kids the situation, that their father's device had the potential to destroy the planet, and with his final breath, he passed on his abilities to control gravity, acceleration, mass, and energy to Alex, Julie, Jack, and Katie, respectively. Deciding to rescue their parents, the 4 chose the superhero names Zero-G, Lightspeed, Massmaster, and Energizer, and called themselves the Power Pack. They destroyed their father's antimatter converter, then used Whitemane's starship to rescue their parents from the Snarks, whose interrogation methods of Dr. James Power had accidentally destroyed his memory of his device. The family moved to New York, where the Power Pack kids ran into other heroes in their adventures against villains such as their father's former co-worker, who donned a battle suit to become the Boogeyman, and Jackal, a high-ranking official in the Snark World Empire. They met Spider-Man, Cloak and Dagger, and the Fantastic Four, the latter of whom grew close with the Power Pack due to Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman's son Franklin being around the same age. In fact, at one point, Franklin joined the Power Pack as a 5th member named Tattletale. Later, the Power Kids were abducted and taken to Snark World, where their powers were taken from them. However, Franklin rescued them using Whitemane's old starship. When their powers were returned, they were redistributed so that Alex now had energy projection, Julie had mass control, Jack had gravity manipulation, and Katie had flight and speed. You can learn more about Franklin Richards and the Fantastic Four in their duel against the Justice Society. The Power Pack frequently partnered with the X-Men, fighting against Sabretooth and the Marauders, the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, the Master Mold Sentinel, and the Goblin Queen, the latter fight teaming up with the New Mutants. Eventually, Power Pack got the chance to visit the Kymelian space station, where they saved the ancient race from Queen Maraud of the Snarks, during which time they reverted to their original power sets. In the aftermath of that fight, the Power Pack helped the Kymelians finally move off their space station onto a new, lush planet called Kymelia 3, where they decided to reject excessive technology as a species. Back on Earth, Alex, driven by a desire to become a more independent and impactful superhero, stole his siblings' abilities using chameleon tech and renamed himself Powerhouse, joining the teenage superhero team called the New Warriors. Though his actions angered his brother and sisters, Alex rationalized his actions by claiming that it was dangerous for children to be superheroes. But eventually, he apologized and returned his siblings' powers. The Power Pack briefly split up as Alex joined Mr. Fantastic's Future Foundation think tank of scientific minds. Julie pursued an acting career in Los Angeles where she encountered the Runaways, and later joined the Future Foundation alongside Alex. Jack opted to tend to their sick mother, and Katie declined an invitation to join the Great Lakes Avengers. They all later reunited as the Power Pack, however, to team up with Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, whom you can learn more about in their duel against Dorothy Spinner from Doom Patrol. That's their backstory. Powers-wise, the 4 members of Power Pack, Zero G, Lightspeed, Massmaster, and Energizer, have repeatedly swapped abilities and codenames throughout the years. For the purposes of simplifying the simulations and our speculation, I'm going to treat the Power Pack as one person, Alex Power, during his time as Powerhouse when he had all of his siblings' powers. This includes Zero G's gravity control, allowing Powerhouse to negate or increase the effect of gravity on himself and his close proximity, and therefore able to lift any object no matter how heavy. He also has his sister Julie's light speed acceleration powers, allowing him to fly at supersonic speeds and teleport. He also has his brother Jack's Massmaster powers, which allow him to turn his body intangible, super durable, and even shrink his size to about 8 inches tall. Powerhouse also has his sister Katie's Energizer powers, which allow him to disintegrate and convert any solid matter he touches into energy that he can absorb and release as an energy blast. This also lets him absorb other forms of energy that he can then redirect. Though Powerhouse is uniquely intelligent among his siblings as a former member of the Future Foundation, all the Power Pack kids are somewhat gifted intellectually, and their costumes, made of unstable molecules and chameleon technology, have pocket dimensions within their pockets that let them carry a significant amount of stuff.
Like what kind of stuff?
A whole bunch of stuff, man. You don't even know. Actually, I think that particular feature is what influenced me to claim that Reed Richards probably had a pocket dimension in his Unstable Molecules costume in his duel against Plastic Man. I knew I had read that somewhere. Like somebody had a pocket dimension in their pocket. It was these guys.
Okay. All right. So just to double check, light speed does not move at light speed?
Well, she could teleport, so kinda.
Okay.
But when she flies, it's usually defined as supersonic. I don't think she can actually fly at light speeds.
Okay. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty crazy power set. Luckily, though, Halo also has a fairly robust power set, so let me get into her backstory. At the beginning of time, when the universe first exploded into existence from an energy known as the Source, some of that energy coalesced into sentient orbs of light known as auricles. The auricles, as beings of energy that existed outside the physical world, lived for thousands of years and multiplied, all the while observing the formation of the universe over billions of years. While many auricles were attracted to stellar phenomena, observing cosmic-level events from a distance, one auricle, however, became more interested in organic sentient beings and wondered what it would be like to experience sensations and emotions such as theirs. Eventually, this auricle discovered Earth, and while investigating it, it witnessed the murder of a beautiful young woman in the country of Markovia during a violent revolt against its monarchy. Moved by the tragedy and attempting to reach out to the young woman, the auricle accidentally entered the physical world and became trapped within her body, bringing that young woman back to life, though she awoke with no memory of her former life on Earth or as an auricle. Seeing Batman upon her resurrection and being frightened, she discovered that she had light-based superhuman abilities. Nonetheless, she joined Batman and helped him and the other heroes stop Baron Bedlam from overthrowing the Markovian monarchy, of which the hero Geoforce was a part, whom you can learn more about in last week's Geoforce vs. Quake Duel episode. Batman recruited the heroes involved in protecting Markovia to form a new Gotham City-based super team named the Outsiders. Still suffering from amnesia, though, Halo adopted the civilian identity of Gabriel Doe, and she lived in the penthouse above the Wayne Foundation building with the hero Katana, who became Halo's legal guardian, and whom you can learn more about in our Katana vs. Elektra Duel episode. With help from Batman's detective skills, Halo eventually learned she was born with the name Violet Harper, from Arlington, Missouri. She was a smart kid, but rebellious, and as a teenager, she and her boyfriend stole a drug formula from the mobster Tobias Whale. Though Violet and her boyfriend fled to Europe, Tobias Whale sent an assassin known as Cyanide, who tracked the couple to the country of Markovia, where she successfully killed Violet. Unfortunately, a visit to her parents Sam and Margaret in Missouri drew the attention of Tobias Whale, who held them hostage in exchange for the drug formula, which Halo no longer remembered. Despite calling on aid from the Outsiders and managing to defeat Tobias Whale, Halo's parents were killed by cyanide in the ordeal. In an effort to learn more about her powers, Halo was brought aboard the Justice League satellite headquarters, where the Oracle within her regained its memory. This event was observed by other Oracles, who took Halo into their ethereal dimension with the intent to separate her Oracle from her body, a process that would also return Violet to her state of death. Fortunately, the Outsiders traveled to the Oracle dimension and managed to save Halo, and the Oracles agreed to allow the merger of Violet and the Oracle to exist in peace. Halo left the Outsiders upon her return in an effort to reconcile her identity and find herself, though she ended up later accidentally joining the cult of Cobra, who tortured her to learn Batman's secret identity. Halo was rescued by the Outsiders, however, after which she rejoined the team. After the Outsiders were framed for the murder of the Queen of Markovia and became fugitives on the run, Halo's rebellious Violet Harper personality began to re-emerge and eventually take control. Halo ended up betraying the Outsiders shortly before she was killed by a cyborg assassin named Sanction, who also killed the woman who hired him, Marissa Barron, the ex-wife of an Outsiders team member named Technocrat. Like with Violet's body before, the Oracle somehow accidentally merged with Marissa, making her the new Halo. Though the Oracles returned to reclaim their kin, they were fought off by the Outsiders, after which the team was cleared of any wrongdoing regarding the death of the Markovian Queen. Violet Harper's body, however, was revived by Cobra and brainwashed into becoming the villain Spectra. The Outsiders eventually disbanded, and Halo appeared off and on throughout the years, aiding Markovia and other heroes during large crises. Eventually, though it is unknown how, Halo returned to the body of Violet Harper, who joined a reformation of the Outsiders following the death of Batman at the hands of Darkseid. When the villain Necron reanimated the dead heroes and villains of the DC Universe, turning them into Black Lanterns, Halo, thanks to her light-based powers, proved effective against the zombies, though she seemingly sacrificed herself while protecting the Outsiders, becoming pure light and dispersing. After the Flash reset DC's continuity, Violet Harper was a drug addict imprisoned in Markovia who later betrayed the location of Katana and the Suicide Squad to the Cobra cult in exchange for narcotics. Cobra then experimented on Violet, intending to use her as a weapon, but the kidnapped scientist forced to imbue Violet with captured oracles, betrayed Cobra, and sabotaged a mind control device that would have allowed Cobra to control Violet's empowered form. When Katana and the Suicide Squad showed up shortly after Violet's procedure, the oracles burst from her body and tried to kill everyone, though they all fled in fear when Katana's sword managed to kill one of them. All but one, that is, which had been bonded permanently to Violet's body. With no memory of her former life, Katana invited Violet to join her. And that's her backstory. Powers-wise, Halo is an Oracle-possessed human capable of manipulating the halo, or aura-like light that emanates from her for a variety of effects that are indicated by a specific color within the spectrum of light. When her aura is red, Halo can produce destructive heat-based laser beams, and when it's orange, those lasers are concussive instead. She can use both red and orange light to create defensive shields as well. Her yellow light is used to stun and blind enemies in bright flashes, and her green light acts as a stasis beam to freeze enemies. Blue light allows her to create holographic distortions, specifically duplicates of herself or other objects, and indigo light can be used like a tractor beam, allowing her to push, pull, or lift objects. Violet light grants her access to all of her abilities at once, though this is rarely used because it also gives the unstable Violet Harper personality control over the body they share. When glowing in any of these specific colors, Halo is able to fly up to the speed of light, which is her standard ability while glowing her standard white.
That's a pretty interesting mix too. It reminds me that I have a bone to pick with the color indigo. I feel like that color between blue and violet was only selected as part of the color spectrum to complete the Roy G. Biv acronym, which is, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Like, nix indigo and make more room for cyan, because cyan is definitely a unique color between green and blue.
I agree with you 100%, because honestly, it should just be red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta.
Purple.
No, fuck purple and fuck orange.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus.
You heard me.
Wow. You're just talking about this character, right? Like the colors that she would have as a producer of light, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay,
she would have magenta light.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Makes sense. But we digress heavily.
That was some inside graphic design baseball.
In a world where fantasies collide and heroes clash, one podcast network rises above the rest. Prepare yourself for the ultimate showdowns in comic books, video games, movies, and anime. The Dynamite Podcast Network presents Console Combat, where video game legends brawl every Monday. Dynamic Duel, where comic book titans smash every Tuesday. Max Destruction, where TV and action heroes battle every Wednesday. And Sendro World, where anime champions clash every Thursday. Join us as we speculate on the matches and, armed with the power of mathematical simulations, discover who will emerge victorious. Visit dynamicpodcast.com, where we settle the debate and settle the score.
But now that we've got their histories and abilities out of the way, let's speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner is determined by simulations, not this speculation, but it's fun to imagine how this fight could play out. AJ9K, what are the rules of our speculation?
Well, I should say there are no rules, other than the characters have no prior knowledge of the other going into the fight. All they are aware of starting out is that the other character is a threat that needs to be eliminated. For the speculation, the contestants will begin approximately 50 meters apart in a nondescript environment that will have no bearing on the match itself, as no environmental statistics are considered in my simulations. The contestants must earn victory on their own merit.
All right, then let's get into it. Halo and Powerhouse meet on the battlefield. Who goes first?
Well, since Halo moves faster, I'm going to say she goes first. And she's going to start by turning yellow and flashing a bright yellow light that blinds Powerhouse. And while he's like, oh, I can't see, that's, when she's going to blast him with an orange concussive beam, just knocking him backwards.
No, because Powerhouse's first instinct, once he goes blind, is going to be to go intangible. So he's going to access his brother Jack's powers as Mass Master, and he's going to lower his density, which turns him into this gaseous form, and this orange beam is just going to pass right through him. And, he's slowly regaining his sight, and he's going to float up into the air as this cloud. And when he can see again, once he gets his vision back, Powerhouse is going to solidify out of this cloud form, and he's going to increase his mass and gravity so that he just drops onto Halo like an ocean tanker, but fist first, just slamming her and flattening her into the ground.
Wait, so is Powerhouse visible in this gaseous form?
Yeah. Why?
Okay, well, this isn't a surprise to Halo because, she just watches this whole thing unfold. And as he's falling down on her, she's just going to turn indigo and send out a tractor beam that's going to grab him and just slam him into the ground away from her instead.
All right, but as Halo tries to slam him, Powerhouse is going to shrink. He's going to decrease his size and mass to about 8 inches tall. So instead of slamming him hard onto the ground, it's more like she just gently sets him onto the ground because, he doesn't have the mass to support the slam. And that's when Powerhouse is going to grow to normal height, and he's going to access his sister Julie's light speed powers. And so he's going to fly right at Halo at supersonic speed and just plow into her, breaking some ribs, knocking the wind out of her.
Okay, Halo gets hit, but as she's recovering, she glows green, and she's going to zap Powerhouse with a stasis beam, just freezing him mid-air to give her time to finish recovering. And as he's frozen, that's when she just goes up to him and just kicks the shit out of him, like punching him in the nose, kicking him in the spleen, and he's just forced to take it.
And Halo might get a few shots in, sure, but like only a few, because Powerhouse, he's just going to teleport out of the stasis beam. And then...
No. He's completely frozen. Like, he can't even breathe in this thing. He takes those hits like a real fucking man would.
It's not like he needs to move in order to teleport. He can just teleport out of the stasis beam.
Is teleportation an action?
No.
It is. So he can't do it because he's literally frozen in, like, space-time.
If he was, like, frozen in a block of ice, he could teleport easily. Same thing.
No, she's not freezing him with cold. She's freezing him with energy, all right? Stasis field. He can't do shit.
Okay, so, like, you'd rather punch a little kid than say he's capable of teleporting out? I see how you are.
She's a teenager, too.
All right, okay. Anyway, so Powerhouse teleports out of the stasis field. I'm just calling it. I'm sorry, that's what he did. Although now I'm seeing the downside to not using the full power pack team in this speculation, because as individuals, they can heal each other. And so there's no one around to heal Powerhouse from the wounds that he just received.
Wait, what power do they use to heal each other?
They can, like, share each other's life force, basically.
Weird.
I'm going to say Powerhouse teleports right next to Halo and grabs her, and he's going to completely negate the effect of gravity on her, so she, like, weighs nothing, and with it, he's just going to toss her up into the air beyond the stratosphere.
In the air. Okay, yeah, that's fine. From the stratosphere, Halo's just going to rain down these red lasers just everywhere, burning up Powerhouse and the surrounding environment beneath him.
Awesome. Powerhouse gets hit by the lasers, sure, and the whole area around him is on fire, but he's going to absorb those heat beams with his sister Katie's energizer powers. And then he absorbs the beams, he's going to absorb the flames all around him, so now he's just glowing with this bright yellow energy, and he's going to fly up into the atmosphere to meet Halo, and he's just going to fucking demolish her with this massive energy blast that she fueled him with, and it's just going to obliterate her.
Oh no, she's obliterated. You know what's crazy though?
What?
That Halo that he saw and obliterated was just an illusion generated by Halo's blue aura. The real Halo is actually coming in fast behind Powerhouse and just slams into him at near light speed with a red force field, disintegrating him instantly instead. Because she could actually travel at light speed, unlike his sister.
Oh shit. More child abuse, I see. Does the splattering Powerhouse make Halo feel like more of a woman, beating up on kids like that?
It's child-on-child crime. Like, what has Powerhouse been doing this whole time but hitting a girl?
Halo's not a girl. She's like a alien zombie. There's a difference.
Yeah, an alien zombie girl. I feel like that's a Rob Zombie. Like, alien zombie girl. Nah, 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 nah.
We could leave the match there before we run the simulations. So either Halo obliterates Powerhouse by slamming into him at light speed with a force field, or Powerhouse obliterates Halo with a giant energy blast. We'll go ahead and input the character stats, run the simulations, and come back with a winner.
AG9K, hit it.
Inputting data, running calculations, processing results, simulations complete.
All right, not being too familiar with either of these characters, I have no idea how these results are going to go. I'm not going to be surprised either way whether Power Pack or Halo win, because I feel like, you know, they both have a grab bag of powers, some of them fairly random, seemingly, and I think that's just going to make the results kind of random.
Yeah, the characters seem to be like either really strong in a stat or incredibly weak, considering that, you know, they're children. So like when it came to fighting skill, intelligence, or perception, they were very, very low.
But like you look at speed and versatility, you know, Halo was maxed out on those. And then you look at things like evasiveness and strength, Power Pack was maxed out on those. So you're right, there's not a whole lot of in between. Either they are really good at a stat or they really suck.
I think what really surprised me was that they actually were pretty comparable when it came to damage level. I thought Halo was going to take it on that one, but, you know, considering Powerhouse could use Energizer's powers to basically do the same kind of destructive beams that she could do, yeah, they're pretty much the same.
Well, Energizer's powers aren't represented as beams. They're more like energy balls. But yeah, I mean, she can disintegrate any form of solid matter and convert it into energy, which, has a lot of destructive potential on its own, even without the energy blasts.
Both characters were actually fairly weak when it came to durability. That's another thing that I thought was pretty surprising.
Although Power Pack had the slight edge there because Mass Master can increase his density to become more durable. Considering all these stats, Jonathan, who do you think is going to win this match?
I have no idea, honestly. I'm rooting for Halo, though, and so are our followers on Instagram. 65% of them who voted in the poll voted for Halo.
The Power Pack, they're a bunch of cute kids. Why wouldn't you vote for them? It's kind of weird.
They're a bunch of fucking kids.
I guess they got that going for and against them.
I say that like I don't have kids. Grace, Faith, I love you girls.
But let's go ahead and find out who won. AJ9K, the results, please.
Here you are, sir.
All right, the winner between Halo and Power Pack is Power Pack.
Dang it!
And you know what? It wasn't really that close. Out of 1,000 matches, Power Pack won 654 battles, whereas Halo only won 346. So Power Pack's win rate was 65.4%, whereas Halo's win rate was only 34.6%.
Really? The Power Pack essentially wins 2/3 of the time.
Yeah, pretty much. Essentially, the few things that gave Power Pack an edge over Halo were durability, but also intellect. When factoring in Alex's powers, high intelligence. He was a member of the Future Foundation. Reed Richards himself said he was around postgraduate level intelligence at the age of 19. So despite the fact that Power Pack also has Katie, who's a young kid, who's, not as brilliant, when you average everything out, Power Pack still had a slight edge in intelligence over Halo.
Which is fair, because I feel like a teenager stealing a drug formula from a mobster is pretty dumb.
It's not that smart of a teenager. Makes sense. Is it kind of embarrassing, though, to be eked out by the intelligence stat? Because I feel like that would be pretty embarrassing, especially from a group of kids.
Well, I mean, honestly, I kind of had to average out her intelligence stat as well, considering that the oracle within her is actually thousands of years old and has amassed quite a bit of knowledge. That said, she doesn't really have access to it and she never really uses it. And the merged Halo combined persona in a majority of her depictions has amnesia, so she doesn't really know anything, unfortunately.
Does she have amnesia currently in the comics?
From the last thing I read from her, yeah, she's still kind of learning who she is while living with Katana. She's very much dependent on her.
Okay, makes sense then. So this is a great win for Marvel. I encourage a lot of listeners out there to go check out Power Pack in Marvel Comics. Actually, a lot of their best stories do not take place in the 616 main Marvel timeline, but rather the more kid-targeted comics called Marvel Age. That's its own continuity, but they're quite accessible for kids, the Power Pack. As a matter of fact, my daughter, who's 1 year old now, when the time comes for her to start reading comics and stuff and getting introduced to Marvel, I think I'm going to start off with Power Pack. And then from there, around age 7 or whatnot, I'll introduce her to like Spidey and the Fantastic Four. And then from there, like around 11 or 12, probably get into more of like the X-Men and the deeper themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is like the limit for Marvel. Like 11 and 12-year-olds could read X-Men. DC has the real highbrow stuff. So like when she's turning 16, totally getting her Sandman.
You're not going to poison my daughter's mind with that bullcrap. I mean, Marvel has the Max line, so when Ella becomes even older, she can start reading Max comics if she wants. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she'll be into comics, but we'll see.
Are you going to introduce her to DC Super Pets? Because that's pretty kid-friendly.
No!
Well, fine then. Jeez.
Not poisoning her mind, I just said.
Well, I guess that does it for this duel. AJ9K, help close us out.
Thanks for listening to Dynamic Duel. Visit the show's website at dynamicduel.com and follow us on Instagram at Dynamic Duel Podcast. You can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/dynamicduel and joining a tier that works for you, or by rating and reviewing Dynamic Duel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or on our website. Don't forget to listen to the other shows in the Dynamite Podcast Network, including Max Destruction, Senjo World, and console combat.
Next week's episode is going to come out right before the 4th of July. It's going to come out July 2nd. So we're going to have a little 4th of July themed episode for you guys where we're going to find out who'd win in a fight between Uncle Sam, who's like the personification of American patriotism, and Captain Britain, who is a hero from the British Isles.
I'm just glad that I am on the side of America and you're a friggin' redcoat.
Yeah, I don't love that, but Captain Britain is more awesome than Uncle Sam, who's kind of a lame-ass character. So yeah, I'm going to win this next one too.
We'll see. But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, Ken Johnson,
John Starosky,
Zachary Hepburn,
Dustyn Balcom,
Miggy Matanguihan,
Brandon Estergard,
Nathaniel Wagner,
Levi Yeaton,
Austin Wesolowski,
AJ Dunkerley,
Scott Camacho,
Gil Camacho,
Adam Speas,
Andrew Schunk,
Dean Maleski,
Devin Davis,
and Joseph Kersting for helping make this podcast possible. We'll talk to you guys next week. Up, and away!
True believers.
I don't have a power pack, but I've got a 6-pack. Of beer, I mean. Root beer, to be exact.